And showtime. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest episode of the ChannelPro 5-Minute Roundup. Look at news, trends, and tips for the SMB channel in 5 minutes or thereabouts. My name is Rich Freeman. I am the executive editor of the ChannelPro Network and one of your hosts on this program, when I can remember my last name. I am joined by someone who never forgets how to pronounce his last name, my co-host Erick Simpson, who's a business improvement and transformation consultant for MSPs and other IT providers. And Erick, you can tell we're heading into the holidays, aren't we?
Yes, we certainly are, Rich. Mines are elsewhere today, apparently, and I can't wait. I'm in a rush to get to the holidays, so yeah.
Well, me too. Looking forward to it. There is still stuff going on in the industry, though. So what do you say? Let's plunge in.
Let's plunge in, shall we?
Our top story of the week here comes to us from Barracuda Networks. Barracuda, everyone knows Barracuda is a BDR company, a security company. I'm not sure everybody has fully awakened to the fact that they are also a player in the RMM market. They have been since February, if I'm not mistaken, when they acquired Managed Workplace, which once upon a time was the RMM platform from Level Platforms, for those of you who have been around. Barracuda has bought that from Avast back in February. They have been an RMM vendor ever since then. They were a little bit quiet at first in terms of what they were doing with that product. They made their first really big kind of splash with it back right about in the August-September timeframe when they came out with version 12 of the system. And they had an enhancement to it this week. So what they have done this week is integrate Managed Workplace with Content Shield, which is a web filtering product that Barracuda makes. And you're now going to be able to manage that product to a degree and look at metrics that are delivered from that product inside the RMM interface. So there's some really nice, good, tight integration between those products available. What's significant about the news is that it just is another sort of concrete manifestation of where Barracuda is taking that product. And what they said from the first, when they bought Managed Workplace, was they want to turn it into the most security-focused, security-first RMM platform on the market. And they're going to do that by integrating it very closely with all of the security products that they make. So actually, when they bought it, it was already integrated with an antivirus system from Avast, and they acquired licensing to continue doing that in the future. In that August-September timeframe I was talking about, they announced that the product integrates with Intronis Backup, which is Barracuda's backup product as well. Backup very much part of the security story. And now you've got this web filtering integration. And they made pretty clear that eventually almost every security product they make will be tied into Managed Workplace in that same kind of way. And without getting too specific about how many of them, by this time next year, I believe the wording was a substantial portion, most of what they make will be integrated into the system. And so that is their competitive strategy here for what is obviously a very crowded market right now with a lot of different RMM platforms. They're going to be the RMM tool of choice if they have their way for somebody who is really focused on security. They're going to do that by creating these very, very tight connections between the RMM and the security tools. And essentially they're going to be wagering that those integrations will be so much superior to the security integrations that you can get in other RMM products that people who really are concerned about security will gravitate towards, or at least take a very close look at Managed Workplace.
Wow, what a crowded space this is, Rich. And it never ceases to amaze me how many new players are entering the market, how many established players are acquiring other players. What really impresses me about this breaking story is the speed with which this first integration occurred. I mean, we see a lot of these acquisitions happen, and the integrations take time, and there's a lot of, it just seems like a lot of time goes by until we see some real kind of synergy between the acquirer and the acquiree, and not in this case. And if their goal is to really become, the number one best known security integrated RMM platform and have slated a schedule of milestones for next year to continue to advance these integrations with all their products, they've pretty much thrown down the gauntlet with this news. I mean, from February to now, that first integration is complete. So, that's what really impresses me about this. And of course, both of these, platforms and vendors are well known in the industry. So I'm sure they're going to get a lot of buzz and a lot of wind behind their sails as they continue to add more integrations over time.
It's an interesting question that you might be better able to answer than me, but I wonder if people, how many MSPs out there will choose their RMM platform based on their favorite security tools versus choose the security tools based on their favorite RMM, if you know what I mean. Because the Barracuda folks are wagering that there are enough fans of their security software out there that could actually drive RMM buying decisions.
Well, they've certainly placed a big bet on a positive outcome to that answer, right, Rich? So, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, as we report, pretty regularly on all the consolidation that's happening in the industry. I mean, who knows what may happen next? I mean, it's interesting. I'm also interested and curious in following what happens with, the Avast licensing arrangement. Is that going to continue over time? Are there other strategies that Barracuda has, down the road? All of this is very, very fluid, and so it's in a lot of flux right now in the industry as we start seeing, all of these, like I say, these acquisitions, these integrations, these partnerships, these collaborations. And you know better than I do, it's tough to keep track of everything.
Absolutely. Well, that the evolution of that storyline is something to look ahead to. We're looking ahead to the holidays, and your tip of the week has to do with something that MSPs really need to be kind of thinking ahead to.
Yes, and great segue, Rich. So, tip of the week this week is all about knowing what the value of your organization is today. I was sharing with you before the call, Rich, that I had 2 calls from previous clients of mine that contacted me, one call right after the other, to let me know that they had been approached by someone that's interested in acquiring their organization. And neither one of them was prepared to maximize their leverage in that conversation. What I mean by that is they didn't really know what their organization was worth from a valuation and an evaluation perspective. They know what their revenues are and their EBITDA is and their percentage of annual recurring revenue, which were 3 key points that I want to focus on to give our viewers and listeners today kind of a thumbs eye calculation of how I would take a first stab at evaluating their organization. And the reason why it's so important to understand what your organization is valued today, these 2 calls were from 2 completely different perspectives. One, a client of mine said, you know what, really wasn't looking to be acquired, but hey, I'm open to having a discussion. I mean, let's see where it goes. The other client was more of, you know what, I'm not even interested in having that discussion right now, but thought I'd mention it to you and just get your feedback. So in both of those scenarios, it's important to know what your value is today, but it's really important to understand in terms of you cannot predict what will happen to you or your organization or to family members or to staff in the future. And I know personally, probably a dozen business owners that over the last several years have had to sell their organizations. Not that they had planned to sell it and were prepared, but had to sell it because of some life event with them, their family, or someone else that forced them to basically sell it almost at a fire sale price. So I want everyone to understand that, hey, even if you don't think you want to sell your company today, you never know what life hands you next, or the opportunity where someone comes and knocks on the door and you may not have been thinking about selling, but they make you an offer that, it's interesting. You want to be in the best negotiating position. And the best way to do that is to understand what the value is today. And once you understand that value, you'll start wondering, what are the drivers what are the levers that I can turn that can increase that valuation just so that I'm in the best position? And that does a lot more than just for discussions of acquisition. It also, puts you in a better position to negotiate business loans and lines of credit, all kinds of other things that can benefit from that. So 3 things, really. The first thing is, what is your EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization? What is that EBITDA number in dollars, right? So let's say that your EBITDA is, let's just pick a number, $50,000, right, at the end of the year. Take that and multiply it by 1.5 times. I think you're safe by saying, by using a 1.5 times multiplier of EBITDA, especially if you've been consistent in maintaining that or growing it partially year over year. And then take what percentage of your overall revenue. So let's say your overall revenue is $1 million. Let's say that 60% of that revenue is recurring revenue, right? So we're talking $600,000. Use a multiple of, I think you're safe to pick maybe 6 times valuation to have a negotiating point. So you're at 6 times 600,000, 3.6 plus your 1.5 times of EBITDA. And you've got kind of a thumbnail view. It's not scientific. It's not going to hold up in financial analysis, but just to give you an idea, quick and dirty math to say, what could my company potentially be worth? Now, of course, proof of performance year over year is good to maintain that kind of position, but just know what it is. And if you're lacking in some area, if your EBITDA is low, if your recurring revenue isn't a large percentage of your revenue, total revenue, you're probably going to end up, if all you had was, if you're just a reseller and have no recurring revenue, you're probably going to get like 0.6, 0.7 times total revenue as maybe an offer. EBITDA may or may not have a factor there. So just a few things to think about as you look forward in 2020 to say, okay, where am I today? Where do I want to be? And how do I put myself in the best position? And sometimes it's easy things, increasing efficiencies, optimizing those platforms that you've had for 3 or 4 years and haven't really optimized to increase automation and lower labor costs, right? Sell more managed service agreements, but make sure that you have an agreement for those agreements. A lot of clients that I work with when we're doing M&A come to find out, their agreement expired 5 years ago and we've never renewed it, or we did a handshake and we've never had even a documented agreement. Have it documented. Yearly agreements are worth more than month-to-month agreements by 12 times, okay, by the way, and try to write long-term agreements if you can. So these are just a couple of things that I thought I'd share as we look, forward to getting into the holidays and through some strategy for growth in 2020, Rich.
And I mean, to me, the key point, so you're absolutely right, of course, circumstances can change dramatically and overnight, and you might find yourself in need of selling the business unexpectedly. But from my perspective, the key point is just the time to find out what your business is worth is not when you put it on the market, but years ahead of that, because you might find out it's worth less than you think it is. And if you know that well enough in advance, to your point, there are all sorts of things you can do to increase that sale value and make sure you get out of the business what you were expecting to and what you need to fund your retirement or whatever comes next. But don't wait until you're on the phone with a potential buyer. Don't wait even until you've decided I want to retire next year and I'm ready to list the business to find out that maybe there's an issue with the valuation of your business. It is never too soon to start thinking about that and start thinking about what you can do to boost that price.
Right, absolutely. And always have in mind the most important factor in terms of having the best negotiating power is make certain that the business can run in your absence. Do not create a job for yourself that's irreplaceable. You have to be able to replace yourself, or else you'll end up with an offer that requires you to be, there for 3 or 5 years and some crazy earnout. The sooner you can position yourself to exit, the higher your valuation can be, and the quicker you can get your payout.
All right. Well, really important stuff and timely as we head into the new year here. We have got time, actually, as it happens, for just one more story this week. And, it's wintertime, Eric. It's the holidays, the perfect time to maybe put on a comfy sweater, pour yourself a little mulled wine, sit down on the couch, and maybe relax in front of the fireplace. And, you need to put a fire log in there if you're going to relax in front of the fireplace. So why not choose the KFC limited edition 11 herbs and spices fire log? Yes, the fire log that's going to fill your living room with the delicious smell of KFC treats. Available now exclusively on Walmart for a mere $18.99 per log. There are apparently and a lot of people who enjoy, you know, a fireplace log, a relaxing fireplace experience that also makes the entire house smell like KFC. In fact, this is not the first, I have never heard of this before, but this is the second year that they're doing this. They did it last year as well and sold out, people. So if this sounds good to you, you need to get to walmart.com right now and place your order, because limited edition, supplies are limited. But yeah, interesting holiday entertaining option.
I just never knew there were so many folks, Rich, that were moved by the scent of the Colonel.
Yes, indeed. And nothing says the holidays quite like the scent of the Colonel. Well, that is all the time that we have this week on the 5-Minute Roundup. Thank you very much for joining us. If you like the show, you want to take a look at some older episodes, and we will be back again next week with another episode this year. So you want to know about that too? What you want to do is go to the ChannelProNetwork.com channel on YouTube and subscribe, and make sure you click that little bell icon there so you get notifications when new episodes come, and we will keep you informed about everything we do here. You want to read more about Barracuda, you want to read more about business growth strategies for your company and getting it ready for sale, the place to go is ChannelProNetwork.com. You want to do that on a daily basis. Every day we have got great new content for you going up there all the time. To learn more about Eric and his company and the work he does with his clients, the place to go is ErickSimpson.com. That is ERICK Simpson.com. So as I say, we will be back again with one more episode before the holidays next week. Until then, folks, please enjoy the rest of your week. Eric and I are enjoying the rest of your week already.